counselors. If I can real quick, before we start here, just, be patient with me. I know this is, a little difficult, but that way, if you guys could, probably speak a little bit up so I could catch you, because I'm hearing, right now it's a little bit difficult hearing you, but that way when, I could acknowledge you when you guys ask for the floor. Thank you. Yes. Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to the November 15th, 2023 regular City Council meeting. I'd like to call roll call.
Mayor David Romero.
Here.
Councilor Barbara Casey.
Here.
Councilor Michael Montoya.
Present.
Councilor David Ulivari. Councilor Ulivari did call in and say he was unable to make this meeting due to an emergency. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. And to the audience members, I want to apologize. I didn't expect to be conducting this meeting here today, as we all found out yesterday with the news of Mayor Trujillo resigning. I was already scheduled for this trip and couldn't get out of it, so I apologize for not being there. This is my first time in this meeting. So with that, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Councilor Casey, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Councilor Montoya?
Yes, I would just like to take a moment to have in prayer the family of Donato Sena, or one of our chiefs of police that was buried day before yesterday. And I asked prayers for the family. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Casey?
I would also like to ask everyone to please keep in mind our former mayor, Trujillo, and his family, and offer prayers for him so that he can deal with whatever it is that he has to deal with in the coming days and months to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to approval of the agenda, I have a recommendation to move executive session and executive session action item to after the business items, and that is due to our water attorney will not be available till at the end of the meeting.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Councilor Montoya?
Yeah, without regular council meeting.
Okay, so right now we have a recommendation to move item 6 and 7. So with that, Councilor Montoya, are you saying you'd like to table and remove from this agenda item number 7?
Yes, discussion action regarding the city manager. And I would make a motion to include the executive session be moved till adjournment, before adjournment.
Okay. So I have a motion.
Second.
A second by Councilor Casey.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, a second by Councilor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on. Go ahead, Mayor.
No, I was just going to say if we have any public input.
We do have one signed up for public input. However, the person signed up for public input was going to speak on the city manager's position. I would recommend that be also talked about during the next meeting when the city manager's position or when their discussion for the city manager is up in the regular meeting.
Okay. So I guess my question here would be because right now we still have item 6, and item 6 still has the potential, we wouldn't be going into executive session for the two items, but potential both items. So with that, your recommendation is for that one item, Cassandra, that we hold off?
So it was my understanding that that was also tabled, the discussion on the city manager, that falls under the item 6 executive session. Was that the intent of the maker of the motion, Councilor Montoya?
No, I think the direction and the action was the one that was canceled. Personnel matters can always be discussed in executive session.
So I guess that kind of leaves that open. So I guess we would just, Cassandra, go ahead and I'll go ahead and allow that, just because it's still on the executive session. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have public input. Ms. Virginia Marujo speaking on city manager position.
Let's see. Okay. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I noticed that you have on the agenda about the city manager position, and you'll be discussing that position again. This is, I know, isn't the first time you guys discuss it, and it's probably not going to be the last time. However, when discussing the city manager position, we would like you as a community, and I'm not speaking just for myself, but for many people, to consider what he has not, I should say, all the domino effect of things that has gone on with the city manager and the mayor during this term. You know, we have a lot of things that are going wrong, everything from lodger's tax to animal control. There's everything with, you know, the events, trying to control things. There's a lot of, mainly a lot of that where the community feels the city just wants to take everything and control it themselves and run it themselves. And that's exactly what has happened. So we're concerned about that, and we're hoping that you really think about that and talk about what is really happening in the background. I know he's even taken a lot of leeway away from you guys. Everything that, many things that used to have to be approved through the city council is now city manager, and it makes no sense why the city manager has so much control when the city council should be doing a lot of those approvals through here rather than them taking it on themselves. There's, like I say, there's so much. I could sit here and I could probably spend a few hours giving you all the facts and details and everything about it, but to really think about all the repercussions that are happening because of all these mistakes and many people trying to give the warnings and let you guys know prior to that, you know, that these things were happening and many times have been ignored and continue to be ignored. And we're hoping from here on that you guys will take a look at those and actually start considering what we're saying and looking deeper into them and to the details and the facts that are actually in there. Of course, I know that many files, and I know this for a fact, were thrown away. That shouldn't have been thrown away. That's illegal. There's a lot of things that have happened, and so I would really say, you know, tonight I just came to say, when you're thinking about that, also do your research and really look into the facts of what's really going on behind the scenes of everything, because you're being told one thing and other things are happening. So that's what I wanted to say for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marujo.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes public input. Moving on to mayor's appointments, reports, recognitions, proclamations. Do you have a report, Mr. Mayor?
I don't have a report to start off with. I just do, again, first off, I just want to recognize Mayor Trujillo, you know, and just kind of clarify that, you know, his resignation wasn't due to the wheels falling off at City Hall. He had some personal issues, and I truly believe, and it's heartfelt, and that's what happened. And I just want to make sure that, you know, the City Hall, we're going to continue to do business. We have services to provide to the community, and that's going to continue, and there's no chaos. I think we have a governing body that is capable and will continue to work in the benefit of the community. And I just can't say enough and thank Mayor Trujillo for his time and effort that he put in. And at the end of the day, we're all human, and sometimes we have to make decisions that best benefit our own health and our family. And I think that's what Mayor Trujillo did, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Moving on to councilors' reports.
If I may.
Councilor Casey.
Thank you. I just want to ensure the people of Las Vegas that the council is working as a cohesive team. And I spoke to Councilor Olivari this morning, and he also mentioned that one of his goals is to make sure that this council, as it, as what we have left, will remain steadfast in doing the best we can for the city. And so I appreciated hearing that from him, because I was a little distressed when I found out that he wouldn't be here. But he did have a family emergency. And we do have to acknowledge all the work that Mayor Trujillo did during early in his term with the fires and the floods and everything else that occurred. It has not been easy at all. It has been a very difficult time for everyone. And the responsibility was, carried mostly on his shoulders. So we need to thank him for that and appreciate the work that he did while he was here. And as Mayor Romero has stated, he did the best he could while he was here. Nobody's perfect. And we all do the best we can as elected officials to ensure that everything that we do is focused on benefiting the people of Las Vegas as best as we can. Thank you. Oh, and Cassandra, if you could please maybe just briefly give us an overview of what the process is so that people know what happens next in terms of mayor and council seat and all of that.
Certainly, Councilor. So, as per our city charter, Mayor Pro Tem has taken the position of mayor, and he will fill those duties until we have a special election. The special election, I don't have a date set yet, but we're looking into the dates. I have to work along with the county clerk, trying to figure out there's certain rules that the election code has that we have to meet for elections. They can't be too close to, like, for example, the election we just had has to be 100 days out, and it has to be at least 70 days prior to the primary election that's coming up. So I will be getting back with Mayor and Council on the dates that will be available for that election. Meanwhile, like I said, the Mayor Romero will fill in, and his councilor seat will be vacant. And depending on the mayor and the council, they may fill that position prior to that election. So that's we'll wait on that.
So Councilor Casey and Cassandra, I'm going to jump in here. I'll be scheduling a special meeting next week sometime. See when you guys are all available, so we could kind of go over the details and have that discussion amongst the council, and then also have a regroup meeting, and then see what we do from here and how we proceed.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Montoya.
I'll pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Moving on to our police chief's report, we have Police Chief Caleb Marquez.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Is it okay if I do the report from here just so I don't unplug that other computer?
I don't know if the camera will get you there. Will the camera get him there?
You can switch his view to his laptop.
So the monthly report for October, starting off, we had 1,024 calls for service, 3 incident reports, 8 burglary calls. We had a total of 34 arrests, 32 parking citations, 1 non-traffic citation, and then we had traffic citations of 194 for the month on our field operations side. Communications Division answered 898 police calls, 123 fire calls, 216 calls for the medics AMR, 37 code compliance calls, 49 animal control calls, 1,010 total 911 calls we received into communications this month, the month of October, and 100 abandoned 911 calls, which is a 911 hang up where we call back and we don't get a response. We'll send an officer to that area. A lot of times that we do get those calls, we notice that when school's out, we get these calls coming in from numbers that aren't active anymore, but give us somewhat of a location. So one thing we're trying to do to get those abandoned 911 calls to go down is a communication specialist to go into the schools and talk about the importance of using 911 as an emergency only call. Animal Care Center started off the month with 90 dogs and 41 cats. They had an intake from the public of 21 dogs and 30 cats. The adoptions were 11 dogs, 8 cats. Outgoing transfers was 22 dogs and 0 cats. The return of owner or guardian was 6. Say if the animal got out of the yard and we retrieved that animal, they came in, 6 people came and retrieved their animals. Died or lost in shelter care was 4 dogs and 5 cats. The ending shelter count is 94 canines and 51 cats. The Animal Care Center took part in the Halloween Pet Festival at Carnegie Park on the 14th. They had an adoption event at Tractor Supply on October 21st. They participated in the city trunk or treat at the Safeway parking lot on the 28th, and then also continuing forward with every other weekend or every other Sunday for the adoption events at the Plaza Hotel. The Information Division, our records, they had 85 offense reports closed, 43 traffic accidents closed, 246 citations were entered. 164 customers were attended to last month for taking their reports or whatever they might have needed from the records division. 310 documents were scanned, and 18 City of Las Vegas IPROs were completed. The street crimes and investigations, they had 4 cases assigned. They had 5 self-initiated cases. They also had 5 arrests. They executed 2 search warrants and closed out 2 of their pending cases. Our evidence for this month was 152 cases were put into our evidence division. 254 items were entered into evidence. We had 2 grams of methamphetamine, 25 fentanyl pills were seized, 1 gram of cocaine, 1 gram of crack cocaine. We had 5 firearms seized by patrol, 32 Suboxone strips, 2 items of property were released back to the owners, whether it was being stored for safekeeping or evidence that was released. We had 25 cases go to our DPS labs and 3 cases go to our RCFL labs, which is our forensic for cell phones or video pools. And then 16 IPRA CDRs or DVDs that were released as well. We had one of our lieutenants who attended a response to resistance instructor course training in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is big for our department, to continue on moving in the right direction of the proper reporting for our use of forces that do happen and making sure we're in compliance with the state. 8 informational travels. We did attend some recruit in-service training. We had 1 in attendance who's on the streets right now doing his field training with an officer. Our biennium training for all of our certified police officers and dispatchers was completed in October, where we're mandatory to take 13 hours of online classes. We also did our firearms training and our DWI SFSTs that are being conducted this week. The platoon training on evidence system. We did switch over our evidence system so we have better tracking, and the system required some, I guess you could say, technical stuff that the officers had to learn on how to input into the new system. So they did receive training on that and our Axon process. We did change our ways of how we submit our evidence to the courts and to the DA's office. We're using our Axon body cameras and submitting everything through them, and it has a digital footprint. It's easier for us to track and stay on top of those kind of things. We did do a recruiting event at Walmart. We're going to try to do these probably monthly. We did have 7 applicants for police officer this month, which is a big number that we haven't seen in a while. We had 4 applicants for communication specialist and information specialist. We had 3 applicants this month. Our recruiter is currently processing these applications through, and we're trying to get them through background as quickly as we could to make sure that we do get the proper channels cross before we hire anybody, make sure that we're hiring quality employees. We did attend the Luna Community College Transition Fair as a hiring event on October 5th. We did close out the Music in the Park on October 6th, where we had a presence there. We attended the Trunk or Treat event on October 28th and the East-West football game for security. We do have a total of 30 vacancies at this time. We're hoping to curb that with our recruiting efforts that we've been doing. Hopefully that number will start to decrease in the near future. You guys have any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
DC, Deputy Chief.
Yes, sir.
First off, I just want to thank you for, filling the interim role right now of chief and doing everything that you're doing. I know it could just be burdensome and then, kind of being in limbo because you're not the official chief, but thank you for stepping in. And I know we had a meeting yesterday and with some of the animal advocates, and they commended you on, some of the stuff that was going on. So I think that needs to be acknowledged. Thank you. Mr. Councilor Montoya.
No, I just wanted to extend my thank yous to the chief because I attended Chief Donato Sena's funeral mass, and these guys all did an awesome job of representing the city of Las Vegas, including the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Casey.
I don't have any comments.
All right. Thank you.
And if I could
Mr.
just
Casella.
that I didn't have on the slideshow, I had a conversation with the manager, city manager, and fire chief, and one thing that we are looking at is advancing our communication system. We've been working together on that. We do have a company that's coming in to do our servicing, and as well as we kind of talked about maybe a DPS style for the police and fire departments to run under, so we're all on the same page moving forward, where we could cross-train firefighters and police officers to assist each other in certain aspects that do come up that we might face in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, DC. Ms. Cassandra.
Here, next on our agenda is our finance report. We have our finance director, Mr. Tim Montgomery, and also our deputy, Mr. Chavez.
Again, welcome, Tim, to your first official meeting.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I think we're on. So good evening, Mayor Romero and council members, for having me here tonight, my first night. So our financial statements are for the month of October 2023, which is 1/3 of our way into fiscal year 23-24. For our general funds, the revenue is $4,623,461, or 32% of our budget. Expenses at $4,803,788, or 26% of budget, leaving us with a deficit of $180,327. I would like to call out, though, there was a payment of $655,000 for annual liability insurance. This has typically been done in January, and so that's driving year-over-year variance. So I did want to call that out.
So, Mr. Tim Montgomery, did that just happen this year, or what was the reasoning on that?
The payment went out in September of this year. Last year, the payment went out in January. And so that skews the percent of expense that would have been budgeted month to month. And so that's why we're showing that overage in the month of October for this year.
Okay. Does it fluctuate? I guess my question maybe to Dominic, does that fluctuate from year to year, Dominic, with us, or is that just a one-time?
It's actually a one-time. Last year we received it a little bit later than we normally do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
For our enterprise funds, our revenue is $4,875,894, which is 24% of the budget. Expense $4,472,922, which is 19% of the budget. This leaves a positive balance of $402,972. For our recreation department, revenue is $191,330, or 25% of the budget. Expense is $259,386, or 28% of the budget, and this is leaving us with a deficit of $68,056. There had been a question posed in last session about basketball revenue. Their basketball revenue totaled $5,000, and that had actually been deposited into the Wellness Center. And so we'll be doing a transfer to move that into the basketball line, and that will put us right in line then for the budget for basketball. The bottom line, or the deficit of $68,056, would not change. For lodgers tax revenue, $173,758, or 25% of the budget. Expense, $200,167, or 18% of the budget, leaving us at a deficit of $26,409. For cannabis, revenue is $55,339, or 55% of the budget. Expense, $1,566, or 2% of the budget. So that's leaving us with a positive balance of $53,773. One of the things I would like to call out is typically we're asked if there are any risks or opportunities that we're aware of. I just want to say that the finance team is preparing to meet with each department to review the overall financial performance of each department, discuss any concerns or opportunities in getting us to the end of the year. So, for example, we're also reviewing health insurance, and its anticipated health insurance costs could go up 10% by January, and up to 15% would need to be held aside for next fiscal year. So we're doing some research on that. And then there's also potential revenue that will be spoken of later in the evening, and that is lodgers tax for bed and breakfasts. And so that's something we're looking into, and we'll try to anticipate the impact to the overall budget. Other than that, there's no concerns for budget.
All right, councilors, any questions?
I don't have any.
No. Councilor Montoya?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. I appreciate that detail of that information. And thank you, Dominic, also for filling in during, in the interim also. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to our approval of minutes, October 26, 2023.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the minutes. There were no errors. They were perfect again.
I got a motion by Councilor Casey. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Montoya. Ms. Cassandra?
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Casey? I have a motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on to our business items. Item number 1, request approval of resolution number 23-33. This is a budget adjustment for the 2023-24 fiscal year. Mr. Montgomery.
So the city of Las Vegas is in need of making a budget adjustment in the 23-24 fiscal year budget to include a revenue and expense increase to fund 205 law enforcement violent crime victim assistance in the amount of $91,608. We're also seeking a revenue expense increase to fund 214 street co-op projects for El Creston Circle paving improvements in the amount of $2 million, and a revenue increase to fund 217 state legislative appropriations for Las Vegas Park improvements in the amount of $20,722. All three of these budget adjustment requests pertain to grants where we are actually receiving grant funds or appropriations and would not have an impact to the general fund.
Any questions, councilors?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of resolution 23-33, budget adjustment for the 23-24 fiscal year.
I have a motion by Councilor Casey.
Second.
Second by Councilor Montoya.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, discussion direction on lodgers tax projects. We have our Community Development Director, Mr. Lucas Marquez.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Let's see if I can get this computer to shoot. We tried it today and it worked, so hopefully it'll do the same thing. Okay, sorry for the delay. I apologize. Recently, we went to a lodgers tax with a couple of, well, not a couple, but a few projects that we were interested in trying to present, and city projects that we're trying to move forward on. And what I'm coming for tonight is direction from the board to move forward and see which projects we want to go after. Of course, we have some really, we have a really lucrative one that I really think that would be great. But I mean, again, I need direction from the board and council to see if we want to move forward. We do have a date that's in February for the application deadline, so we still have time to go ahead and think over projects and try to get more pricing to get on its way. I pretty much put up some pictures for reference of what we're looking at, and this is the archway projects that we're looking at. We do have certain areas in town that we've been talking about putting archways, and if you want, I could list off the areas, but if not, we could move forward and I could go ahead and advise you guys of what I found and what they really mean to the community. This is just again for reference pictures, not the actual signs that we're looking for. Everything that with the purpose of a streetway archways, there's a lot of purposes for them. They're decorative. Street archways can add a sense of grandeur and beauty to a street or to an area. They're functional. They can provide many things, shade from the sun or the rain. They can be used for cables, wires, anything that we can hang from to make sure that we get a good connection of any type of city utility. They're symbolic. They can represent a particular culture or a time period. Memorial, of course, they can commemorate a particular event or a person. They also act as traffic control. Some people put the traffic signs on there or traffic lights on there to go ahead and use them as traffic control. They can also be used to indicate where crosswalks would be at for people to go ahead and cross streets. Also used as landmarks. As you see that first picture, it said it's gateway into the Smoky Mountains or whatever. We could do the same thing in this area here. Picture a few of them there one on Bridge Street saying entering historic Las Vegas. The next slide has the costs. The costs anywhere from these ones are $150,000 to $650,000 for the most ornate and functional signs. That means they're going to be ornate in the way they stand, and also they're going to be functional as they're going to have traffic lights on them. So there's going to be electrical wires that are going to be running through them. A lot more intricate than the other ones that would just be a pretty much standalone sign that's telling you, hey, you're in downtown Las Vegas or you're on 7th Street or things of that nature. The archways are something that's really good. It all depends on the size of the archway. The larger the archway, it's going to be a lot more expensive. The materials, of course, mean everything. It could depend if you're going to be getting a metal archway or if you're going to go with a wood archway. Design, the complexity of the design, it really adds to the price. Location, of course, depends on our locations that we're going to be at, because if we're going to be going into a city street, then we have to deal with our own city permits and, of course, our state permits. But they're not as wide. We don't have to ask for permission. If we're going with 7th Street or Grand Avenue, of course, we'd have to ask for different permissions and different types of permits that we'd have to go through with them. It's always in our best interest looking for different contractors to see who gives us the best shot at getting our projects off the ground. And with this one, I can go ahead and allow questions for each one, or I could go ahead and finish the whole presentation and then ask for questions at the end if the council and the mayor would like. If you'd like, I could continue okay. So this was the part of the longest one. The next project that we talked about was lighting projects for the Rodriguez softball field, another infrastructure type of setup that brought in a lot of tourists last year. Was our Little League and softball tournaments that we held over here last year. We're looking to try to see if we could light up those fields a lot better, keep the people there a lot longer, and allow them to enjoy the game with brighter lighting. Looking at these types of fields, the larger the field, the more different the light needs to be. We could always go with the old style and have what's called let me see what's called a metal halide or a high pressure sodium lights, but LED lights are more preferable in every game right now, even though they are a little bit higher upfront costs. In the long run, maintenance wise, they last a lot longer, and you don't have to maintenance them as much. We're looking for uniformity. We're looking for color temperature. We're looking for glare to not be so great that the spectators are going to get blinded or the players are going to get blinded. Safety minded lighting is always the top priority. Average cost for these we can expect to pay in between $135,000 to $350,000. That's including lights, poles, cables, cement, all that stuff that needs to go into these lighting fixtures. Another one that we've been talking about and looking at, and we brought to the board's attention, was a food truck park. I didn't put a particular site on this plan, although I know there's one site that's been spoken about. I'm going to go ahead and allow the board to discuss that amongst themselves and advise where we would like to see to go if we do decide to go after this one, where we would like to go after it at. Typically, a typical food truck, I know on your paper it's going to say 200,000, but doing more research, I came across where it would be anywhere between 50,000 to 300,000 to get a food truck park started. They're really good things to have. You're going to have a variety of foods in the same area. They're affordable. There's no overhead charge or prices. They're a lot lower for them than a food park than a regular brick and mortar building. It's just a new experience for the public. Great way to be social, and they're a fun way to eat and they're an affordable way to eat. So that's another project that we had to look at. The next project we had was the Red Caboose restoration. Red Caboose is a landmark in our community. Every time you're coming in from a south side of town, you run into the Red Caboose. You'll see its welcoming red glare. Right now it's in a little bit of disrepair or despair. We got to revitalize that Red Caboose, and we got to stabilize the structure. We got to stabilize by repairing and replacing the damaged windows, the doors and framing. We got to address the structural issues that may pose a safety hazard. By that I mean the safety ramp that's in the back needs to be redone. So we could go ahead and get that into standards for in case we do have any ADA compliance issues that arise. We can be able to combat it with that. We're looking at that project being anywhere between $15,000 and $45,000. $45,000 on the high end. I'm thinking more or less like $30,000 for us to get it repainted, redone, and do some landscaping around the whole area to make sure that welcome sign that's made up of bushes stands out a little bit more. The last thing we have is the City of Las Vegas reader board. City of Las Vegas reader board. It's actually hitting about a decade old now. I think I was here when we actually approved this thing. It's been a while. You could see the landscaping is in definitely need of repair or restoration. I think the gravel needs to come on up and move forward with it. I know that this sign, it's hard to read sometimes, so we're looking at trying to see if we could get a bigger sign for this reader board and kind of modernize the area for it. Again, it's another landmark. As you're coming in from the north side of town, it directs you, you know where you're coming from, and it directs you to the events that are happening in town. It tells you the dates, the times, but they're a little hard to read, especially for the traveling public, unless you can park and have accessibility to stop and actually read the sign. It's a little bit hard for us to go ahead and read those letters. especially if you got that glare coming on down on you from the sun or whatever. Total cost for this restoration, I went with the $6,000 landscape and remodel of the sign. The big board itself would bring up this thing to about $116,000 for specific needs of the project at all. And with that, I'll go ahead and close out these projects. Those are the projects that Lodgers Tax advised me to move forward on, and I wanted to see get direction from the board on which ones we could try to move forward to go ahead and chase after it.
Mr. Marquez,
Yes, sir.
I know the question will come up, but what locations are you thinking of for the arches?
For the arches, sir, we're thinking on 7th Street, either off of Lee Drive to where the city has property there by the Dairy Queen. And if that's not possible, sir, we're gonna try to move on up the road by Hacienda and the Gaina's apartments. And another one that we're gonna try to do, and of course, this would take state highway approval, sir. It's nothing that we could just do on our own. We'd have to go and get approval and make sure we have the proper height, proper construction, and that's why we have that $650,000 price tag on there. The other sides that we were thinking of were University, where the bridge is at, coming down into town. South Pacific is another area that we're thinking of. We're thinking of Bridge Street. See if we could put one on the bridge, letting everybody know that they're coming into our historical sites. Another one that we're looking at is south side of town, by the entranceways. See if we can try to get people to recognize us for what we are, with the beautiful Las Vegas. Also, it's not just street arches that we're after. If it has to be archways into the Riverwalk, is another thing that's come across us. They're a lot less expensive, and again, they would direct people into the areas that we're wanting to attract the people into.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Councilor Montoya?
sorry I didn't address. Just jumped in. Anyway, I commend you, Mr. Marquez, and your staff and city manager for following through on the request of mayor and council that we wanted a listing of projects that we could spend that lodger's tax money on. I mean, it has accumulated, and we need to put it to good use. We need to show off Las Vegas. I think those locations to let our people know, that our visitors know that we exist and that there's a community that they can stay in and visit, a safe place to stay. I think those arches would attract even more people as we advertise more on media, on photos, at the Balloon Fiesta, so forth. I would like to see if we could put, one of them that says, "Welcome to the original city of Las Vegas, established 1892," for instance. Another one, "Welcome to downtown Las Vegas," or historical downtown Las Vegas. Another one that might say, "Welcome to the Gainas River Park." Just nothing real fancy or anything, just something to. And then on the backside, we could always put something like thank you for visiting and come back, or something like that. I know it's a long shot, and I know the one on 104 and Grand Avenue has been talked about before for years. I think that we can make it a reality. So I came to the Lodge Tax meeting when you presented, and they were all pretty receptive to the ideas. They asked you for some numbers, and I would recommend that we proceed in that fashion, and see if they would be willing. Now, they did ask, or somebody did ask, see how much funding was available for infrastructure. Did you ever find that out, or?
I haven't found that out, sir, but I could get you guys
Number.
numbers and get them over to you guys ASAP.
Yeah, because there's only a percentage of it that we can utilize for infrastructure.
Okay.
So if we can find that number out, then we can probably proceed on what type of arches or what size or what price tags we can look at, or how many. But that's just my recommendation. I'm in support of this.
Mr. Marquez, and that's going to kind of be my concern. Well, that was going to be my question as to how much on the infrastructure. And I don't know if you've had it. I mean, you haven't had a chance to meet with finance, but I think that's important moving forward as we do see that those are big ticket items. I mean, with the budget, I mean, if you really think about it, we need to, me personally, I don't see us being able to get those big ticket items, but then again, I mean, we'll let finance figure that out. But what I would suggest, and again, just a suggestion here, is that you get with finance, and then maybe we could, once you get to the total, you have the totals for everything right now, but get with finance and see how much we have, and then I think they're all great ideas, but I think us as a group and as a governing body, then we kind of just take a in public, take a vote and see which one that we all kind of agree on, and go from there. I don't want to turn it to which ward or which ward is more deserving. I think we need to come to a conclusion as a group and do that, and that's just my 2 cents. And Councilor Casey, I don't know if you have anything.
Yes, I did. I think all of them are wonderful ideas. My question is on the arches, can you get them to match some of the other signage so that we don't have a big old mishmash of this sign looks like this and this sign looks like that? So that we have some consistency in the signs, if we do decide to do that.
Mayor and Council, yes, ma'am, we could definitely, when it comes to that point, and if that's what the board decides that we're going to move forward to on this project in particular, I'll definitely involve somebody to design them, and of course take maybe a vote from the council or even a vote from the public that might say, hey, this is the type of design we want to go after and represent our city, and we can make all the signs uniformed in the sense that they still distinguish what part of town you're in, but they all look
Basically
in
the same.
uniformity.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My other question is on the food truck park. The realtors had some money that they had wanted to donate to the city for a project. And we had suggested a food truck park. I was told that is not a use for them, that is not they can't use that money that they have for a food truck park. And another concern that the realtors have is that if we do a food truck park that provides tables for people to sit on and canopies for them to sit under, that would be a competitive, that would be considered competition against the restaurants, and the restaurants might not be very happy about that.
Okay.
So if we do have a food truck park, it would have to be a large enough area so that people can drive in, pick up their food, and drive off and take it home to eat it. So just a food for thought. The red caboose really needs restoration, and the building behind it does too. So I'm sure that'll come after the red caboose is fixed, and then we can get that taken care of, because that building is in poor condition and it's not in the greatest part of town, for lack of a better word. So if we could maybe think about that as another project after the caboose is fixed, we can get the building fixed later on with maybe legislative money that we can request for next year or something. Thank you. I think you did a great job.
So councilors, if I can, I'd like, as we proceed here, while I'm interim right now, if we could start making motions and giving direction, so it's clearly, our direction is clear and recorded, because I know in the past, each one of us has made recommendation, and it's difficult, to determine who went what. So we could, if one of you could come up with a motion on specific direction to move forward.
Mr. Mayor, before we make a motion or move forward, Mr. Marquez, the food truck are you requesting lodgers tax funding for that one too?
Mayor, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I just want to mention that, I think the baseball lighting is a great idea. I think we'll probably be the first ones to have lighting on a field where the leagues are being playing under lights, for one. And the big plus to the baseball field is that we already have the conduit pipe in place, so it would be less expensive to do that. And it's a brand new field, and I think that's a great idea. And Logistech was full support in it because they know and understand the amount of people that came to the playoffs this last summer. So they know that baseball park is going to be something awesome for this community. So, and on the Litherland's property, to my understanding, is the funding that they're donating is basically just for the dedication of Mr. and Mrs. Litherland to be used on that form, not for the park itself. I did go around the neighborhood asking the residents in Lee Drive what they thought about a dog park and what they thought about a food truck park. And I explained to them that it would just be food trucks around and enough parking for so many cars and a stand for somebody to sing or play music and picnic tables in and around. I got from one address, yes, from another one, yes, another one, yes, another one, yes, another one, yes, but they want a wall in between so that they differential the business from the residential. There was 3 no answers on the door, and the other one was yes. So pretty much everybody there, it was in favor of walking distance to get something to eat, to have a different kind of food. And I explained to them, it would be city property, and we still would have to work out the details as to, how many vendors there is that are willing to do that. And if there's too many, we would rotate them, maybe every 3 months or whatever. But it would, at the end of the day, have some revenues for the city coming in. And at the same time, I think the Litherlands were very giving people in this community. They always gave to organizations, to schools. They give their property to us. So, they would still be giving to the community. And they didn't see nothing wrong with the 2 existing businesses that are there that serve food. We're helping the small business community that can't afford to buy a restaurant or open up a business. So, they were all gung-ho for it, the ones I spoke to. I still got to go around the next block, but, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, I don't know. Yes.
May I say something? I agree with Councilor Montoya on the Rodriguez Park lighting. I think that should be a top priority. And if we can do that. And on the food truck, Councilor Montoya has applied for legislative funding for the Litherland property in the amount of $250,000. I would suggest that maybe we put that on the back burner until we find out if we're going to get anything from the legislature. And then, if we do, we'll...
The $250,000 is a legislative funding request.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. So let's wait and see what we get before we, use lodger's tax money on that too. If we get the $250,000 and the Litherlands are giving us another, 75,000 or whatever it was, then we may not even need to use lodger's tax money for that. And we can use whatever's left over for one of the other projects.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Casey, were you done?
Well, I was going to say that for me, Rodriguez Park lighting is essential. The arches, I think, are a great idea, but they're really expensive. The red caboose would be my second priority because people see that when they drive into town and it's not red anymore, it's like orange. Yeah. So it would be nice to have a beautiful caboose there with the greenery that, says welcome, and people can actually read what it says and see how beautiful the caboose is. So I think that would be my second priority. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
So thank you, councilors. And Councilor Montoya, go ahead real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I mean, I don't have no objections to Councilor Casey's priority listing. Lighting is important. I agree with that. And the caboose is important. That needs done. We've been asking that to be done. And I would place the food trucks third, and then the arches. But I would like to include the food trucks in the largest tax, because at least for the planning and design of it. And then we'll see if we get the $250,000 from the legislature. But at least this way we have moving forward, and that would help the legislature make a decision that we are trying to make this a reality. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good idea.
Thank you, Councilor. So with that, if I could just recommend, now that I entertain a motion for direction, is that Mr. Marquez and City Manager get us again the availability of infrastructure money, because I could almost bet we could only maybe one of these projects. So I'm just saying that if I would entertain the motion that we get the figures from available infrastructure money, along with the recommendations of priority set forward by Councilor Casey. Is that fair?
I will make that as a motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Casey. Yes, Cassandra?
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, a second by Councilor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
I just want to make a comment. I think it's difficult not having a vote over here as mayor. Thank you.
Life is rough out here in the West, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Moving on to item number 3, discussion direction regarding the Litherland property. Councilor Montoya?
I just would like to give direction to the city manager to make sure that the paperwork is in order, and that the funding that they are contributing is in order, and the legal aspect of it, as far as the transfer of papers and land, is all in order, so we can move forward with this project.
Mayor and Council, if I may, yes, all the transfer of the 3 lots, 2 facing Lee Drive and 1 behind the Lincare building, that's all been transferred over to the city officially as of probably 3-4 months ago. As far as the funding is concerned, Mr. Litherland did state that it's going to be dependent on where the direction of the city goes with what they decide what to do with the property. They do want it to be memorialized of their parents, but that transaction of money has not been done to the city yet, because the city has not chosen what they want to do with the property.
And I don't know, Mr. City Manager or you, Lucas, would have information, but the property, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's residential, so no matter, I guess if it's a park, I guess it could stay that way, but if we look at something further, what's the process?
Mayor,